For a bit of context, this actually happened to one of my friends named Rachel. At the time, was somewhat what in their second year of college. This was sometime back in 2015, and she took college somewhere where about a few hours away from the current town. I don't remember what place that she took college at, like I don't remember the name or anything, but she did take a popular college so she could get into nursing sing that year. She'd been studying the course for a few years, which of course, or since 2012 when she was 19, taken a few courses related to nursing stuff. To become a nurse for hospitals and that, she had a lot of time studying, and of course, most of the nights were hectic since she had to pretty much study most of the night until she got tired enough to go to bed. Most of the time, studying was something, and she didn't have any problem with it. In fact, she enjoyed college and was enjoying her own thing with going to college and getting her diploma when she graduates. She's always enjoyed that story, read times that people have told about college. However, though, it was sometime in September when this happened. In September, there was this one really nice woman who happened to be sharing the same dorm room as her. Her name happened to be Stephanie, and Stephanie seemed to be very chill with her. They both chatted, and she was into certain things that Rachel was in, to which the girls seemed to get along just fine, no issues. However, though, something really odd was going on with Stephanie, but that wasn't until a week after Stephanie moved into the dorm. When Rachel was eating dinner at the cafeteria, she looked up to see Stephanie looking visibly pale. She honestly wasn't sure what her problem was, but it honestly was really concerning since Rachel didn't know Stephanie that well, but Stephanie was making really weird faces and was occasionally staring at Rachel. This, of course, made Rachel really uncomfortable, unsure of what to really expect. It honestly was really creepy, since Stephanie would then turn and face her a few times. Honestly, was really freaking her out. On the inside, Rachel decided to try and be as calm and collective as possible. But however, on the inside, she had a feeling that something was really off about Stephanie. Almost everywhere in each class that goes, when Stephanie would follow, she would make really weird faces at Rachel and even stare at her. She occasionally would stare at other students, but most of the time her eyes were mainly on Rachel. Rachel ended up thinking maybe she just had some issues or just wanted a friend, so she ended up just letting it slide. However, that wasn't until some time, I guess on the weekend when it happened. It was Saturday, so Rachel was sleeping in when she woke up around, I guess, 11 in the morning. Now, normally she slept in until the late afternoon, but, not really late afternoon, but usually around 1 o'clock. She ended up looking over to see that Stephanie was not in her dorm. Of course, it was just her and Stephanie, so Rachel thought that Stephanie might have gone out. In fact, her stuff wasn't even there. She ended up looking for Stephanie, but couldn't find anywhere in the dorm. She wasn't even anywhere in sight, which was really surprising. At this point, she ended up calling the campus security, and they searched the place, but couldn't find any traces of Stephanie. It was later revealed that what truly really did happen to Stephanie. Stephanie was somehow a registered serial killer, and she happened to be mentally unstable, and there was a really odd reason onto why she came to the college. She was apparently the same age as Rachel, and she had a history of killing people in college dorms, and she had been doing this since from the USA. Still to this day, though, Rachel couldn't believe her eyes that the one college student or happened to be her roommate of her dorm she thought was always nice, turned out to be a serial killer. Rachel still cannot believe that Stephanie was a serial killer, but she never told her on anything. It honestly really frightened Rachel, knowing that someone who she thought was cool had turned out to have a dark and evil side. Rachel, of course, has never seen Stephanie again and wondered if Stephanie was either getting help or was staying in prison for a very long time. So this took place sometime maybe about a few years ago, sometime in 2017. This happened to a close friend of mine, to which we'll call her Caitlin. Now, Caitlin, this was on her first year of college, and she was going to a college somewhere in Michigan. I don't exactly remember the college, but it was a pretty decent, good college. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it was definitely pretty nice. There was this little park area that was not far from the college campus, to which Caitlin loves to go there whenever she had her free time, just to get some fresh air, admire the area, etc. However, a couple times though, Caitlin had never had a boyfriend, but of course she've always wanted to have a boyfriend and one day get married to the one she truly loves. However, there was this one creepy encounter she had with this one guy. Now, she was walking across the park from being out with lunch to go back to the college campus to her next class. However, on her way there, she met this one guy who didn't even look like a college student. He even looked like that he might have been maybe in his early to mid-20s. Maybe a little older, but something did seem a little bit off to Caitlin. The guy seemed to be a little bit taller, was standing maybe about 5'9.5", while Caitlin was about 5'2". She honestly didn't even know what to think of this guy, and he seemed to be staring at her for some reason. He walks up to her and asks her how she's doing, and she ended up giving a polite convo with him, saying she was doing fine and that she was on her way to her class. Of course, this guy seemed to be following her shortly, maybe about a couple feet away, once Caitlin had some distance with him. This one guy was really following her, and it honestly made her uncomfortable. She didn't even know if this guy had an issue, or maybe it was just some college guy that was looking for a girl to hook up with. She honestly wasn't sure. She ended up going to the college campus and go to her classes, so the guy didn't follow her there, but he just turned around and walked away as if he had gone back the way he came. The next day, however, he was there again, but this time he was waiting for her at the center of the park. It honestly creeped her out even more. She seemed to see this guy a bit suspicious, but she ended up saying that this guy seemed to not be even a college student at all. She asked him for his name, and he gave out his name to be Eric. Okay, it was a decent name, but he seemed to be okay. And at first she thought that maybe he just was one of those college guys that would like to try and hook up with a girl. However, though, this was starting to get a little stranger when she ended up walking the other way around the park, managing to ditch him, to which he thought that was kind of a little off. He honestly had no idea what was going on, but Caitlin knew she had to try to avoid him as much as possible. As she was avoiding him as much as possible, the guy always seemed to be finding out her new move every time. However, the next day was Friday, and her morning classes were canceled, so she didn't even bother to go to the park. Instead, when she looked outside of the campus, the guy, Eric, was standing in the park waiting for her. It honestly freaked her out, since she didn't even know why this guy was doing this, but it seemed like he was stalking her for whatever reason. It honestly sounded really creepy. So she ended up deciding that she would go to the college campus security and alert them about this weird encounter that Caitlin was having with this one guy. As he sat there in one of the benches waiting for her, she ended up going to the college campus security, and they secured the area but couldn't find Eric anywhere. They had a lot of Erics, but after what was being described by Caitlin as best as she could, they ended up calling the police and did a sweep around the area, but they couldn't find him. It's obvious that he must have left the college campus, and the campus was on lockdown for the weekend, but they still couldn't find this Eric guy. Caitlin is not sure if he was a student or not, and even if he was he expelled? That honestly really question that sits with her to this day, and she still isn't sure about what happened to him, and she could care less. She has never seen him since then, but this comes to show you that not everybody is always what they may be, on the outside or the inside or both. So this happened to a college teacher back in sometime, I guess, in 2014. We'll call her by Mr. Stevenson. Mr. Stevenson taught the college at that year, as well as a few years back, before he started teaching a high school in 2015. Now, Mr. Stevenson's job as a college teacher was mainly the computer lab. It was mainly a digital art, aka a 3D modeling class where students can learn how to do stuff with digitaling. It was pretty fun, and Mr. Stevenson liked helping out the kids and even got to see how they were doing and check out their projects and stuff. However, though, one of the times that he was in college, something really odd was going on. Now, it's not like the type of story to make you jump out of your pants or anything, but there was one student that happened to be really weird. There was this one student that always wore a hoodie, and he goes by the name Jeff. Now, Jeff seemed to be okay. I mean, he was doing his work like everyone else, and he didn't talk really much. But however, Mr. Stevenson thought that maybe there might have been something going on at his house that he didn't know about. I mean, that's pretty much how people have issues dealing and coping with stuff, but however though, taken that he has two autistic kids, one's 16 and the other one is 12, he can understand how it feels. However though, something told him that there was something off about the student, but he didn't really know what to put it as. Now, he seemed to be okay and was doing his work, so Mr. Stevenson didn't think any of it. However, though, it wasn't until the end of the day when his last class left, and that was the student Jeff was in. And as Mr. Stevenson was cleaning up the classroom, he noticed there was one of the computers that were opened, and it was apparently still logged in. Confused as to who it was, he realized that Jeff had forgot to log out. He was about to log out, but decided to see if he had done any work. Being the curious teacher he was, he saw that there was a USB attached to one of the computers. He ended up going through the file to see a folder of videos and photos. What he looked was absolutely shocking. There were photos and videos of women in the college. Some were taken from the dorms, some were taken from what appears to be in the girls' change room, locker room. It was really disturbing. He ended up going to the police and reported this incident to the police at the college, and they ended up arresting Jeff, and he was expelled from the college. There was little to known about what he did after that, but Mr. Stevenson hoped that whoever this Jeff person is getting the help that he needs. Now, for a bit of context, I do apologize if this story seems a little bit shorter on the side, but this happened to a friend of mine who was at her college at the time of this story. It was in her college dorm, and her name was Stacy, and this took place back in 2012. She was on her sophomore year in college, and this is when something really weird happened. Now, normally in her college dorm, her other friend, who happened to be Rebecca, was sleeping in her dorm when she got back from a late night shift at work. Now, she basically worked at McDonald's from 6 o'clock all the way to midnight, to which it was really exhausting and tiring. Stacy was about to get into her dorm room to sleep when she all of a sudden heard what seemed to be someone knocking on the window. She honestly looked, thinking that there was someone actually there, but there was no one at the window. In fact, it was raining, so she thought that maybe the rain could have hit the window, and she thought that might have been it. She ended up turning on her lamp side, not to wake Rebecca up, and got ready for bed by throwing on her pajamas, and then just went to bed. About a good 2 hours, it might have been around 2 in the morning, when Rebecca woke up, and she ended up just going to the bathroom. However, Stacy woke up hearing the knock again. This time she looked out to see that there was a figure, looked like a woman. Of course, she was all black, so she couldn't see who she was or why she was knocking at the window. She ended up closing her eyes tight and had her blanket over her head, thinking the figure would just go away. She opened and realized that the figure was gone. Honestly, she had no idea what it was, but she did report the incident to the campus security, but there was no woman near the dorms. I think what Stacy had experienced that night was completely paranormal.